Hi everyone, I'm Rene, and in today's video, we are going to be speaking about near-death experience. We're going to be going through some examples. We're going to talk about how to induce your own near-death experience. And we're going to have a special offer sometime throughout this video that you could take advantage that will just about cause a near-death experience in you. Just kidding. But before we get started, like I said, I'm Rainey, and
I'm Raluca. Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects that I research on for many, many years, NDE.
near-death experience. So
Mhm.
let's talk about it a little bit before, okay?
Yeah.
What is a near-death experience? To put it, I guess, simply, okay, it's individuals who are on the brink of death or have had a life-threatening situation that experience dying and coming back, obviously, because they can talk about it. So
Yeah.
there's some of them that have just been for a few seconds, some of them as much as a few minutes, but the stories, the things that they come back with are amazing. Now, during a near death experience, people report vivid sensations, experiences, thoughts, but some of the common features, I guess, are well, one is an out of body experience. Some people experience leaving their body and, like in a hospital room where maybe they're having an operation and they can actually see themselves from outside their body. So, some people experience that. Some people experience tunnel vision. And by the way, before we go too far, if
Mhm.
any of you watching have experienced any kind of near-death experience, we'd love to hear about it. So leave it in the comments, whether it's during the show or even after. Some people feel strong feelings of peace, tranquility, calmness, well-being, and some even encounter deceased loved ones or other, spiritual type beings. Actually, just not too long ago, I heard somebody talking about how they experienced or they actually met their cats that have passed on, which was kind of neat. Some people go through what they call a life review. A life review, you know how people say, well, I saw my life flash in front of me? That's pretty much what it's like. It's a rapid, comprehensive review of their entire life. And some things really stand out. So some lessons are stronger than the others. Then there's the old, there's a bright light. You always tell people, when they say, "Oh, I'm getting faint," you tell them, "Don't walk towards the light," as a joke. But some people experience that bright light like a doorway or a gateway to the other side, and they feel pulled towards it. Some just have really heightened senses, and some of them, ooh, this one I understand, we're gonna talk about that a lot later, is a reluctance to return. They get there and it's almost like someone's telling them, you got to go back. And they're like, no, this is so great. I want to stay. So those are some of the experiences. But before we get going with some of the stories Raluca has,
Mhm.
what are some of the things that you'll experience as with an induced near death experience? What's an induced near death experience? It's intentionally, not accidentally, intentionally triggering or inducing, okay, a near death experience. So
Out
with
of body, we call it?
yeah, it kind of out of body because well, some of the methods you do it are through we're not going to do this one, but controlled hyperventilation,
Mm. Mhm.
sensory deprivation. Uh, Luke and I watched this movie called Fringe, and this one reminds me because it says administering specific drugs or substances. Back in the old days, back in probably the 50s and 60s, they used to administer LSD for people that have that. Using virtual reality technology, and the ones we're familiar with is using hypnosis. You can experience similar, not exactly like a near-death experience, but a lot of the similar type feelings, the peace, the wonderful feelings, the meeting loved ones, the understanding more about what it's like over there. So, and it's also important to know that as Raluca's going to tell you some, a couple different stories, and not all of them are the same. Some of them might be pretty similar, but the interpretations of a near death experience are oftentimes influenced by people's culture, their religious beliefs or their personal beliefs. So that's important to understand too. If you're really religious, you might have an experience having to do with your spiritual beliefs. If you're not religious at all, it might be something just spiritual. It might be nothingness. So it's different on depending on who you are and your background. So with that, Raluca has been doing a lot of studying on near-death experience, which is why we're talking about it today, because she's telling me all these ideas, and it's like, oh, that's cool. We got to tell that to everyone and share it. So she's going to tell you a little bit about that and remind me to let you know about this offer that we have that's going to make you flip to the other side. That's not one of the methods, by the way.
Hopefully not today, though.
Yeah. Hopefully after we get off the videotape it. Go ahead, Ralu.
No, I've been studying. I've been watching a lot of videos over the years because I'm passionate about what I always thought. What happens, man, after we die? Like, what is it? I mean, what is this thing? I even listened to Elon Musk talk about, is this a simulation? Are we part of a simulation? And he was on the Joe Rogan show, and he says it's quite possible. So that really intrigued me. And I had an experience when I was a kid. I don't know if you call it a near death because I didn't see anything that Rene said people see, like light and anything, but I was physically unable to move and I could see my body from up. So I think maybe I was, but I don't know why I experienced that, but I remember distinctly that I could not move my body and I could see down. So ever since then, I must have been what, 10, and it was so impactful that I never forgot it. And so I always was intrigued by what happens after we die. And through my research, two guys that really caught my eye, besides Marcello Bacci contacting spirits through his ham radio, is this guy called Bill Tortorell, who experienced a near-death experience because he got very, very sick while he was selling his stuff at some kind of conference he was at. And then another guy that was very interesting story is Bill Letson. He talked about, he's a firefighter and he was saving somebody. And when this woman exhaled, he inhaled and he got extremely sick. Talk about direct inoculation, he called it. And what it was very interesting is the parallel about what these two guys are talking about that they experienced after they were, I think one of them, I'm not sure if one of these guys, but maybe another one that I watched, said he literally redlined for 6 minutes. And when he went, wherever he went, his spirit went. It felt like hours, but then it was only when he came back, he realized that it was only 6 minutes. But, anyways, what I wanted to talk about is some of the parallels, some of the things that they both um talked about. And one of them was kind of like what Rennie has on our TV behind him. They both said that they experienced kind of like going through sort of a tunnel of lights, not so much a white light, but like a kaleidoscope of multicolored lights. And I was like, what are the chances that they both experiences that? And yeah, they both said that they experienced that, like going through. What caught my eye with Bill Letson was that he was going through sort of like another dimension, which that's something that I keep hearing about because that's very interesting, right? He said they both said the same thing, and then they both said that they got to a point where it was almost like the library of your life type of thing, in a door, but you weren't allowed to go through that door yet because you have to go back, you got more stuff to do. um so that was interesting. In case of Bill Letson, he talked about the fact that there were some guys there, and the guys that he saw reminded him about I guess there's a movie called Communion, and where it shows the type he said he had a woman commenting underneath his when he told the story, he says, I was watching the movie Communion and I almost dropped my popcorn because she experienced the same thing, the same guys. And he said, oh, I went out there and I was thinking, wow, here I am with these guys from this cartoon show, but they look just like the same. And this lady was telling him that she visited with these guys when he was when she was a kid many times. So that was so interesting. So of course I went on to see what the movie Community and was like, wow. What are the chances of that? But he said they were asking him, how was it? Tell us, how was it? And they were kind of giggly and stuff. So he's like, what do you mean? He was confused. He said he was confused about that. But they were very curious to know how was it when he was alive on the planet. How was it on the planet? They were very curious about that. And they're very insistent about that. So I was thinking, wow, that's so cool. Such a cool experience. Uh, these guys, whoever they were, he said, yeah, they wanted to know. So the parallel is that they both said they went through that tunnel, which it felt like they were stepping in a totally different dimension, which I just can't forget about that. That's so interesting. And then they have the of course the library of life, and I know Edgar Casey talks about that. You guys heard about the words akashic records and all that's what we call it here. And another thing that they both said, and many other people that I listened to, what did you say
Oh,
something?
nothing. No, not
Many
yet.
other people,
I'm taking notes.
yeah, many other people that say through the research that I've done over the years is something having to do with number six, and it has nothing to do with the devil. Okay, but
Not three
it's
sixes.
well, one lady was talking about I am the six of six. I don't know what, and Bill Lutson, I think he talked about the number six too. So I don't know. Have you guys ever heard about that? Like, what is it with the numbers six? I've heard that over and over. When I hear stories, when I hear stories having to do with near death experiences. So let me know in the comments, okay? um, so distortion of time. Multiple times I'm hearing about distortion of time, and then uh, the fact that they're not done. And one of the guys in Bill Letson case, there was another guy there. He says, okay, it's time for you to go back. And he kept saying, no, I don't want to go back. I'm staying here. I don't want to go anywhere else. He said he was actually pissed that this guy was telling him to go back because like again, many of the people in the stories that I listen to talk about this amazing uh, love feeling, peace feeling.
Hmm.
And that is something that many people talk about that during their stories, the overwhelming sensation of acceptance and peace. And then when they came back into their body, what I thought it was interesting about Bill, he was talking about how he felt if it the feeling he got was just complete, like he was dropping through when you fall. I don't think many people experience this, right? They fall through when you jump to go from a big trampoline in a pool. That's the same feeling he had. And he had the feeling of shifting, like everything was almost collapsing back into place, almost like a puzzle. And then boom, he was back in his body again. So I thought that was interesting.
Hmm.
And so these are a couple of stories. This Bill Letson, and then there's another one, Bill Tortorelli, that he actually wrote a book about it, and you can get it on Amazon. Um, and there's another one that's very interesting. Let me look at the note here for a second. I don't remember his name. Scott something. His name. He has, I think it's like millions of people watch it. He was pronounced legally dead for 20 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, and he came back and he told a story. Okay, what is it? Scott Drummond. That's his name. If you want to check it out, it's a very interesting story. Many YouTube channels have him on to talk about it. But yeah, he was pronounced legally dead for 20 minutes, and he came back to say some of the similar stories, but most of them, like Scott talked about at the end, he says, one message, can I get a message to tell the world? And that's why he's doing everything he's doing. He says, you guys have it backwards. That's all I'm going to tell you. You have it backwards. The life that you live, that's why those guys, I think, were asking me, so how was it? Because it's death is not the end. Death is going home. That was the message he had. That we have it in reverse, that we shouldn't be afraid of it. So that's the stories of the two guys, and I want to bring up one comment, because that I like to listen to these videos, but one comment that really caught my eye while I was watching these guys' story was from can I tell his name? Commenter Taylor Chrome Official. He's one of the most thumbed up comment underneath uh, what is Bill Tortorelli video on the channel The Other Side NDE, if you want to check it out. But that really caught my eye because he had 3,000 thumbs up, and he talked about I can't be alone on this, but there's so many times I find myself outside at night looking up at the stars, and during those times I get this almost homesick feeling in my gut.
Homesick, yeah.
Yeah. So he says I have tried to explain this to others in the comment to others, but they just say things like, "Oh yeah, that's interesting," or "crazy," or "maybe you just need to talk to somebody." So he says I can literally feel it in my core. I think I get that glimpse. He says in the comment that he gets the glimpse of that peace for a split second and then it's gone. So he says, I can't be the only one who gets this feeling, right? Anyone else feeling homesick or not? And there's 3,000 thumbs up. So 3,000 other people thought the same. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah. Interesting stories. I'm fascinated by it. If you have any videos that I should listen to, let me know in the comments.
I've got a bunch of comments about some of the things you said.
What's up?
And in just a moment, I'm going to tell you about one more near-death experience that I had about 20 years ago. Yeah, I had
Yeah.
just turned 40. It was at the VA hospital, and it was an experience that happened there. But okay, I'm going to tell you that right after our special in just a moment. But some of the comments that I wanted to mention to you
Yeah.
is you talked about how one of those people said that they were in a different dimension. And it's
Yeah.
funny because over the last few days, I've been working on a new course I'm putting out on the law of attraction. And in it, of course, it's like a law of attraction on steroids, because we're talking about how to manifest using hypnosis and a lot of
Hypnosis,
other
yeah.
techniques added to it. But I speak about how we're blended beings. And when I say blended beings, we're a blending of conscious and subconscious. So we're blending of conscious, which is the third dimension, and subconscious, which is fourth dimension. So we're fourth dimensional beings living in the three-dimensional world.
Mhm.
Think of that. It's kind of like being a Maserati that can go 200 miles an hour, but you're only using it in a place that you can only drive 30 miles an hour. There's so much more you can do, but you can't let loose. You see what I mean? Because you're limited to this three-dimensional world. So it's kind of funny how you are talking about that. And that's part of the things that we're speaking about with the different dimensions in this course. But something else that you said was, and I'm looking at my notes here. You said before, in your own experience when you were a child, you said you felt like you couldn't move. You were lying down and you couldn't move, and you were seeing yourself out of your
Mhm.
body,
Yeah.
which a lot of near-death experiences, they talk about out-of-body experience. But that feeling of not being able to move, think of it, when somebody dies, you start to relax. Let's say you're going to sleep, you go into the different brainwave states. You go from alpha, which is lightly relaxing, theta, which is your dream state. But then when you hit delta, okay, delta is where your brain is, your cycles per second of your brain are slowing down so much, you're almost in the coma state. But when you get down there, you hit that reticular activating system, RAS, where your body
Yeah, right.
is numb. It's kind of like it's a dreamless state. There's no dreaming, but your body is, you have that dead weight where you can't move. If you've ever tried to pick up a child and they feel like, oh, what's wrong with them? They've gone
Or
so
the
deep,
cats.
they're in this dead weight, or a cat. Yeah, they're so heavy. So you were in delta, which is why you couldn't move. So you were having it out of body. Okay, who knows? You may have been dying. You never know. But you're having it out of body. You're seeing yourself. You're trying to move, but you couldn't because you were that deep, extreme deep sleep state. So I just wanted to bring that up. I thought that was kind of neat. But anyways, I want
Yeah.
to talk to you about my out-of-body experience. But before I do, if you look at the links below this video, I actually put two things down there that I want to share with you. One is our past life regression and spiritual travel home study course. In that course, you can learn how to do all these things, because we're going to talk about induced. Okay, induced. Actually, I'll talk about that right now. Near-death experience. Okay, so that's using a hypnosis session to bring somebody to that depth, to the alpha, theta, and even deeper state. Of course, I would go probably alpha, theta if you're doing it for yourself, just listening. But if you're doing it to someone else as a hypnotherapist, you can be taking them even deeper if you want. But we have scripts to do that. But anyways, this past life regression and spiritual travel will teach you everything about about spiritual travel, from past life to future life to parallel lives to life between life, which other people call home. So that's one thing. And the other thing that I added, which is something that's fairly new, and I want to see if we have it, is our spiritual exploration journeys hypnosis script manual. Now, this has 54 journeys that you can experience. All you have to do is play these. You can use them to hypnotize yourself or others, self-hypnosis, or play it on a recorder and play it back to yourself. These are complete guided journeys, and there's even a near-death experience journey in there. There's connecting with spirits. There's all kinds of stuff. If you go on that link below, you'll find, there's an out of body, there's chakra alignment, there's past life, there's astral travel. So there's all kinds of journeys. So that is an awesome book for taking you there. But anyways, if anybody is interested, and we're going to let you know right now, here's the special. Okay, if you're interested in getting the past life regression and metaphysics course, anyone who purchases it today only, and today is what? 9/22, okay, the 22nd. Today only, we will give you this spiritual exploration journeys script manual with it, absolutely free. So when I see the purchase come through, I will send you not only the course, but you'll be sent the script manual shortly thereafter, which is a $99 value. So that's huge, getting a $99 book for free, and you can experience your own induced near-death experience. So let me tell you about my near-death experience, okay? This is kind of funny because we talk about self-fulfilling prophecies and thoughts become things, okay? So what you focus on all the time happens. That's how the law of attraction works. That's how the subconscious mind works, which is why I tell people the subconscious is the law of attraction. So whatever you focus on, if you told somebody, oh, when I get to be 12, this is going to happen, it probably will. Well, all my life I was taught, or my youth, that men in our family didn't live to be over 40. I don't know where that came from. So I had in my mind growing up that I'm going to live until I'm 40. And I led kind of a, not reckless, but a wild life in my military years, becoming a policeman and all this stuff, because I figured I'm going to be dead by the time I'm 40 anyways. That's how I was programmed. And I believed it. And I raised 6 children, and here I was, 40 years old, and I was out of the military. I went to the VA hospital, and they told me, they did some tests. We'll let you know the results of the test, and in a few weeks or whatever they come in. So one day here I am sitting at home and I get a call from the VA. They said, we need you to come to the West Roxbury VA hospital in a hurry. Okay. We have an appointment for you at 3 o'clock for your bypass surgery. I didn't even know I had heart trouble. I said, bypass surgery? So I called a friend of mine.
At 40?
Yeah, at 40. It's funny. I called a friend of mine, asked him to come pick me up and bring me there because it's quite a ways from Maine to Massachusetts. And I called my nanny, made sure she was going to take care of the kids, gave her power of attorney. Ooh, see what I'm thinking? I'm not coming back. Matter of fact, I had a one-way ride to the hospital, and that was it. So he drives me all the way over, drops me off. I say, see you later. And I actually said goodbye to a few people. Isn't that weird? And I went in for the heart procedure. They wheeled me in. They put this dye in me for starting the process. And I redlined. I died on the table. It's funny because I was holding on to a nurse's hand. I remember she was here holding my arm or something like that. And I felt myself going out. It was like everything was kind of faded out, started getting I don't know, fuzzy, I guess you could say. And I faded out until I was in nothingness. Everything was dark.
Oh
And
yeah, that's another thing that those guys were talking about some kind of a dark place that they first landed before they got to
oh, really?
yeah.
Everything got dark, and I knew I had left. And because it was funny, as I was fading out, I could hear the doctors yelling and do this, do that, and they're yelling back and forth because there was quite a few of them around me, and I could feel the nurse's hand, and then all of a sudden I didn't feel anything. Everything faded away until it was peace, nothingness. Now, like I said before, a lot of these near-death experiences relate to your religious experiences. At the time, I was spiritual, but I wasn't religious at all. I guess you could say I was between religions. Okay. And so I didn't know what to believe in. I was kind of confused at the time. So I didn't see angels or, Buddhas or, whatever coming at me, family, or I just saw nothingness. I kind of felt ripped off actually. But but the thing is, they did revive me. And as I was coming back, okay, this is one thing I really remember. I could hear the commotion kind of really softly, kind of like from at a distance, getting louder and louder. And I was fighting like a son of a gun not to come back. Because the one thing I did notice was the absence of peace. As I was coming back, it was like all this peacefulness and this euphoria I was feeling was fading away, and I did not want to go. I wanted to stay, and I was fighting so much to come back, and they're yelling at me, and I could feel my arm being almost yanked off, and I did come back. And I guess it was an allergic reaction to some kind of dye they put in me that they shouldn't have done. Because I remember the doctor after looked at me and says, "If you ever have this done again, tell them to use the good stuff." No, thanks. Thanks for using the cheap
Wow.
stuff. So the funny thing is, I did die.
Did you go
and
to
then
the veterinary clinic instead?
yeah, when I look back at it a few years later, I realized, hey, I was 40 years old.
Yeah.
That was a self-fulfilling prophecy that I was going to die, and I did. But I didn't know they were going to take me back. But it was interesting that it was so peaceful that I didn't want to come back. And matter of fact, I once
Yeah.
took a gentleman to the epsilon brainwave state in hypnosis. Like I say, usually go to alpha, theta. And as a test, I took them beyond delta into epsilon, which is the deepest you can go, which is epsilon is the same state where the yogis go to. Sometimes you hear about these yogis where they slow their heart so much you'd swear they were dead. I think it's like
Yeah.
0.001
Yeah.
to
That's interesting.
0.05 your cycles per second that
Mhm.
so that's extremely slow. You could probably put a mirror there and see no breath. But I
Hmm.
had taken somebody to that once, and I remember it was the only time I ever tried to call someone out of hypnosis, and they didn't come out. And I was
Yeah.
starting to get scared. Come on out, and nope. I could use their name. Come on out, and no. The thing is, they hear you, but
They
it's
just won't
so
come back.
euphoric. It's so euphoric that you don't want to come back, and that's what the gentleman said. Because I did get him out of hypnosis because I said, so and so I see that you're very relaxed and you're really enjoying this. And I charge $300 an hour. So I'll come back in an hour. All of a sudden he opened his eyes. No, 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 I'm okay. Okay. So I hit him in the wallet muscle. And that
That
was the
always
only,
works.
yeah, that always works. How do you take them out? Try that. It'll always work. They not only come back, but they come back with a smile, kind of chuckling. And I said, so what happened? He says, it was just so euphoric, so wonderful. I didn't want to come back. I could hear you, kind of like when those doctors were trying to pull me back and I was fighting it. He was fighting it too. So it kind of gives you an idea, the other side is pretty wonderful. But that's my
Maybe,
story.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm thinking because this whole thing with the different dimensions is very interesting to me, and maybe it's a different, more loud, more thick dimension over here. That's a combination of all kinds of people's vibrations. And so when you let go of all of that, because that's what Scott Letson was talking about, he was saying how he was arguing with this person, whoever they were, that didn't want to come back. And they told me, you got stuff to do, you got to go back, and you'll come back over here. But he
Yeah.
says, every time I tell this story, I get smiley and giddy because it's so beautiful over there. So, yeah, I
Well,
hear
remember,
that.
it's a
Yeah,
different dimension. It's a higher
yeah,
dimension, the
yeah,
spiritual side. Remember, we're blended beings.
yeah.
And in the fourth dimension, there's no time or space.
Hmm.
Everything
Yeah,
Everything is here now. So California, you say, I want to go to California, and you're in Maine, California's here.
yeah,
Everything is here simultaneously, the past, the present, the future, location. There's no time or space. Whereas in three dimensions, of course, it's kind of like, this is three-dimensional. It has depth, width, height, but you're limited. And we have time. Okay. Whereas
hmm,
we go down to two-dimension, and it's a sheet of paper. So you can only go this way and that way. One dimension is a line, and zero dimension is a dot. So you can see there's more and more, but the higher dimensions always include the lower dimensions,
yeah.
but not the other way around. So we're four-dimensional beings living in a three-dimensional world. And
And
I'll be
also
talking
the
about that
yeah,
in my next course coming up. Law of attraction. You'll see it pretty soon.
it's a
Yeah.
great one actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good. I've been listening to the videos to check them out, and they're really good. One more thing I wanted to add, because I talked about a lot about Cello Bacci with his ham radio in the past,
Mhm.
how he contacts the spirit of the dead ones. And one thing that really struck me as very interesting is how they themselves from the other dimension were so very surprised to be able to communicate with us.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
that was very interesting. I was like, wow, that's crazy. But yeah, they would say, we couldn't believe that we actually are able to communicate here with you.
Great.
Very
So
cool.
So near-death experience. Try it. No, I mean,
Oh my gosh.
it's very interesting.
Yeah.
If you'd like to try an induced one, like I said,
Mhm.
take a look at the links below, and you'll see that we have our spiritual exploration journeys manual. Okay, which has over 50 different spiritual exploration type trips you can take, and the past life regression and a spiritual travel course, where if you buy it today, will also include the $99 manual as a bonus. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for watching. We really appreciate his having you part of our group. If you've had any experiences like this, please leave comments so we can look at them later. Who knows? We would love to find people with great experiences and interview them, and probably put those on here as well. A lot of people would love to hear about it.
Or we may be reading your comments in a future video. But please, yes, do leave comments. I love to read the comments.
And with that, as always, I give Ralu the last word.
Thank you. Thank you guys for being
She makes me.
I make them, yeah. Sure. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for watching our video. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. We'll love it if you did, and we'll see you in our next live. Also, click on that bell, because I guess when you click on the bell to get notified for every time we come on live, and we will come on live quite a few times in the future. So you want to click that bell, okay? Thank
And,
you again.
and every time you click on the bell, an angel gets his wings.
Oh.
I
Okay,
saw that
there
in
you
some
go.
movie. I
Click
saw
the
that in
bell.
some
Click,
movie.
click, click.
All right. Have a great day, folks.
Take care. Bye bye.